is I'm actually going to do a coat of brown first, and I'm just going to do it on this shin piece for my TD build. I'm not going to do the whole thing, but basically you can do the whole thing, at least the first coat, in about 10 minutes. It doesn't take very long. One of the key things that I kind of discovered was that you can't really judge the paint by the color in the bottle. I thought this looked really, really dark, and oh, you know, I'm gonna kind of do the one color technique and it's gonna look really cool. And it ended up really, really brown, which is okay if you want to go for that kind of deserty look. But you'll notice, you know, even in the bottle here, or in the tube, it's pretty dark, and it's a little bit lighter in the when you actually squeeze the paint out. But the key thing to think about here, or what makes this kind of different, is once you actually spread it really thin, it doesn't end up that dark brown at all. I've just got a scrap piece of plastic, and you can see here, you know, if I just sponge it on, you know, yeah, sure, that looks pretty dark, but you know, if you spread it out like that, it actually ends up really kind of yellowy warm, which is actually one of the colors you want. But in terms of like a one shot, one coat approach, that might not do it for you unless that's the look you're going for. So what I did was I kind of layered it. And in this color here, this burnt umber, when you thin it out like that, it actually looks a lot like that oil that I actually tried out. I'd actually got this from an oil change that I did in my car a little while back. Don't tell my wife that I brought oil in the house. But anyway, so this is kind of just one coat, and that's how you're going to apply it. So I'm just going to take my sponge here and my paint, get a bunch of it on there. You don't need too much because you're actually going to be spreading it out. And here's just some sort of tricks and tips and techniques. So I've got my leg armor here. I'll maybe try and do the inside first. I'll try and see if I can keep an eye on the camera at the same time. But what you want to do is you don't want to smear it in there. You can do that initially if you want to get the paint in the nooks and crannies, which I'm actually going to do. You can see it's really, really dark, but if you just watch, it's going to thin right out. So what I'm going to do first to get all the paint in the nooks and crannies is I am going to smear it in. You don't want to do that or leave it like that because you're going to get these vertical lines. So what I'm doing here is I'm just, it's called texturizing. They kind of do this all the time with, you know, faux finishing for, you know, those home improvement shows when people are painting their houses and stuff like that. But you basically want to cover pretty much the entire piece of armor with this, and you know, make sure you're getting in all those nooks and crannies in there too. If you can't reach in there, you know, bust out the little paintbrush and just jam that paint in there. You know, I'm not too worried about getting the dirt pattern or whatever to look exactly the way I want right now. I just want to get paint on there. The thing with acrylic is that it actually dries pretty quick, and that's kind of one of the properties that we're going to sort of use to our advantage when we're doing this weathering. Pay attention to areas where, you know, you've got these kind of nooks and crannies and you want to retain the paint in there. We're just going to kind of keep dabbing it. Like I said, it goes pretty quick, you know. Don't try and do these strokes. Just try and do the dabbing with the sponge. You don't need to be an artist or an expert. This is actually pretty easy to do. And if you do just, you know, whatever, a few pieces a day, you can weather your armor pretty quick. So I'm just going to work this all the way around. You don't have to cover every square inch if you don't want to. It depends on kind of how dirty you want it. Again, I'm kind of going for that sort of oily look. But for this first pass, we're just going to try and cover every bit of the armor. So I'm just going to do one side, kind of demonstrate how to, you know, weather it pretty quickly. So once I've kind of got the coverage I want, I can kind of move on to the next step. One thing to keep in mind is, especially for areas like the knees, I find, a lot of times people don't weather the inside. So, you know, you look on the outside and you're like, wow, that looks really awesome, it's really dirty, and then someone walks behind you and you know, they see that you've kind of literally missed a spot. So, you know, this part you don't have to be too picky with. You know, just get stuff in there so that it doesn't look like it's white plastic, which is what it is. And I don't even, you know, do much with this afterwards in terms of trying to make it look good. It's just, as long as it's not white plastic, it's probably going to be fine. So just a tip to do that there. Now, just, you know, pretty quick stuff. You know, this is actually like pretty dry already. It's in a few areas. I'm just going to dry it off a little bit quicker with a hair dryer, and I'll be right back.